some of the federally funded programs that people can access even before they come to Canada. Thank you. Programs that potential candidates can access prior to coming to Canada. I identified the one for nurses, right? That they can approach them. Those organizations will not only help with credentialing, but also will provide labor market advice. Look, I'm not a job counselor. I'm not a recruiter. I can't speak for every job. There is high demand regionally for certain jobs, and low demand in other areas. What somebody can do strategy-wise is they can do some research on where there is demand for their profession. There are job banks. The Saskatchewan government has a job bank that is accessible for foreign nationals to apply through. Otherwise, people are on their own. Canada is a very big country, geographically, certainly, and the labor markets are very different in very different regions. There is a high concentration in cities like Toronto, Vancouver, but there are other opportunities in other regions. When somebody engages me for consulting, we talk about a number of things, not only the programs they could qualify for and how to do that, but also if Canada is the right choice and where they might like to live. All right, there are lots of jobs in Saskatchewan, but that may not be. I know, so not everybody likes the weather in Saskatchewan, right? So it really depends on if it's really where you want to go. All right, and sometimes immigrants do make their own mistakes. They come to Toronto and they're looking for a job in a labor market that's already heavily saturated. And when they could pursue job market somewhere else in Canada, if they're prepared to move to those regions. Yeah.
Thank you so much. And I think that's a very good recap of the lessons you gave us earlier. Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you so much. My sister, Carol.
Yep.
Help us unpack the concept of racial trauma and what it means to have a therapist who looks like you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Do help us unpack that. What is racial trauma?
So as therapists, we have to be very careful when dealing with racial trauma. If we're racialized, we have to be able to hold space that we're sort of not bringing our stories into the room as we're sitting with someone that has experienced racial trauma. Oh, hello? Okay. So I'll start again. I'll start from the perspective as a racialized clinician therapist. When I sit with someone that has experienced racial trauma, I have to be careful to not also bring my experience into the room. So the benefit is that someone can sit with a racialized therapist and they understand their perspective. So in other words, they don't have to explain if it happened, when it happened, are they sure? We start from a place of, have you experienced it? How did you feel? Then that's where we're working with you from that perspective. But I also have to be mindful that I'm not bringing in my experience as we're sharing this conversation. So first and foremost, that's important to keep in mind. Just because I'm racialized doesn't mean, of course, I am the best person, but we believe that at least we reduce some of the stress that's also coming into the room to begin with.
Yeah.
And so what we're trying to recognize is that when we have experienced this, we can be triggered. After we experienced one incident and we're not sure, something may happen again, or an individual may recognize that, okay, they don't feel safe, or they start to think something's wrong with them. So when we take these opportunities to have conversations, first and foremost, it's okay. You can have an experience, you can feel unsafe. What are some things that you can start to do? How do we move past? If you are feeling like you're applying for opportunities and you're tired of being rejected. How do we normalize that? How do we recognize that, okay, what can we do next in terms of making you not only just feel safe, but feel heard? This is a big part of therapy, that you can actually share your experience and feel heard in the moment without somebody rejecting your story. Or in other words, helping you to say, okay, now that you've experienced that, what are your choices? What do you want to do? Because a lot of this, when we think about racial trauma, is the lack of freedom. You feel locked in this space. So we kind of give them the opportunity to recognize that they have choices, they have people that care about them, and then we help them through that as well too, and recognize that there has possibly been trauma. Trauma is anything that's happened to you and then you haven't had an experience where you've been able to connect with someone to normalize it.
Right.
You've had to process it on your own. And so sometimes that can cause a lot of pain.
Thank you so much. A little bit before I go to the doctor, I just want to tap into what you just said right now. In relation to why men tend to be hesitant to seek counseling. In one of yesterday's presentation, one of the doctors, Dr. Wasiche, indicated that men who do not have their significant others tend to never even think about pursuing counseling whatsoever. How do you what strategies do you have to encourage men to be free, to have that freedom to come and speak to a therapist?
Great question.
Especially someone who might be a doctor back home. They are here struggling to become a doctor again, or a nurse, or whatever. But they are hesitant because they can't cry, they can't feel, and now they can't even seek help from a Carol Sandy who might be better positioned to help them.
That's a great question. First and foremost, yes, we know research shows that immigrants that with the highest degrees, masters and above, are least likely to seek support. So we know that already they're sitting with a lot of that because one believes that they should be able to move through this. One thing that I think is important is that we keep in mind that they find someone that they feel safe with. That first and foremost, an important part with men, one believes, and this is not all men, but that they don't feel judged.
Right.
And so the idea is that we want men to access these services and find someone that feels a connection. When I speak to people, I'm like, it may not be me, it could be somebody else, but find that person that when you look at them and you're sitting with them, or you're having a virtual or you're on the phone, that you feel a connection. You're allowed to do that. And that is one thing, that part of why we started this program. It's that you're allowed to find the right person for you. And that is what I would say to someone who's trying to say, well, I don't know if I need help. Don't worry. Let's start with finding a person that you can connect with, that you don't feel judged.
Right.
Ideally, that's what we're all trying to do as clinicians.
Right.
But you have to feel it first. So again, giving you the freedom to find the right person, the right connection, so that you can start moving from that direction. Because if you are connecting with your partner, you're connecting with them because you feel heard, you feel seen,
right.
and you want to find something similar, not exactly the same, similar in a clinician.
Thank you so much. Man, you had that. Dr. Back,
Yes.
you talked a lot about SDGs,
Yes.
The Millennium Development Goals as well. And you talked about your experience in trying to engage in international conversations at the UN, but also thinking about how you can implement the vision for World Health Organization. Tell us more. How should people sitting in this room, organizations in this room, what should they do to help the World Health Organization implement some of their goal, their vision through the SDGs and Millennium Development Goals?
Thank you. That's a good question. Can you hear me? Yeah. That's something that I would have talked about if I had been assigned a little longer. So thanks for asking. You know, the United Nations General Assembly and the people who decided on these goals, they're upper echelon people, as you can imagine. They are people at the global level articulating this vision for all of humanity and all of these projects and all of these disciplines. You'll notice that the SDGs are many, many, many disciplines. We call them all health determinants, many, many disciplines. And there's a gap between the global vision making and the achievement of the goals at the grassroots level. Big gap. And also, for instance, say SDG 2, zero hunger. Every farmer across the world is achieving SDG 2, but that's not something that farmer knows that they're doing. And every single one of us who are healthcare workers, we are achieving SDG 3. We are already achieving SDG 3. But we don't know that that's what we're doing. We don't know that we are participating in a global activity to make the world a better place. We're just caught up in our own challenges to do our work and our joys to do our work. So this gap is part of what we're working on, to say, okay, to work on developing ways for us to bring feedback back to the United Nations, to let people know that they are actually, when they are articulating their vision, again, on social media, on YouTube situations, those people, we're actually finding ways to bring back to the UN, back to the World Health Organization. Here we are, achieving the goals.
Right.
So, and not only is that important for them to know, for the upper echelon people to know, but also for us to feel about the value of who we are and the value of what we're doing in our communities, in our nations. So we're working on that sort of thing, and that's not just us. We can be talking about how to do that. Organizations can be looking at that notion of strengthening the value of their people and their disciplines. Certainly people who are healthcare workers, we can be bringing that feedback back, and we can also be bringing feedback to the top, let's call it, and also using the goals to validate who we are and what we're doing, to call ourselves global citizens achieving social work, global citizens achieving health, global citizens achieving zero hunger. Hopefully that's to prime your mind about that idea, and I'm happy to discuss if someone wants to talk with me about how they would do that for their organization, we can talk about that. Yeah.
Thank you so much again, Dr. Buck. 2 questions from the audience, 2 or 3 questions from the audience, and then we go for one last presentation before we go for lunch.
Actually, this time we need to have lunch in time. So for the first time, I'll ask the gentleman to be first. Yes, handsome.
Yeah, thank you so much for advocating for us. First of all, I think all of us should agree that the presentations were good, so we should give them. Yeah, so I'll start with, I'll call her my mother. Me and other colleagues in this room, like Joseph, Winfred, we had an opportunity to be part of the SDGs in 2015. And I think in 2030 they'll be expiring. And I like the fact that you brought that mismatch between the decision makers and then the people where the issues are. For example, where I come from in Uganda, we have a lot of health challenges, issues with the health systems and stuff like that. But I feel like SDGs, there's a lot to be done in terms of creating awareness. And the clock is ticking. The clock is ticking. And I like the fact that you're able to bring it out. Someone who is coming from the global north, but most of the issues are in the global south. So we need to create an awareness. And I like the fact that you're able to create that opportunity so that organizations here get to know. When I landed in this country, I met some youth and they didn't know anything about SDGs in this country, Canada. So we need to do a lot of work towards that because 2030, they're expiring. I don't know what else is going to come. Then, Carol, I used to train men in Uganda on positive masculinity. And I think for us immigrants that come from a patriarchy society, we need to change negative attitudes towards positive attitudes. Where I grew up, we were taught that men are not supposed to cry. So it's very hard for a man to bring out their emotions, even if they have that significant partner. I know, like people who are married here, they know what I'm talking about. It will be very hard for a man to bring out what he's feeling. So I think if we debunk, deconstruct, decolonize those negative attitudes and change them into positive ones, men should start to think that it's okay to cry, it's okay to open up issues that you're facing. Because at the end of the day, you depress yourself, and that's why we have so many suicide among the men, because they're not bringing about the distresses and stresses they have. So I agree with you, and I think this is, if we can come up with a campaign to involve men. I have what we call, the approach that I used to use in Uganda is called the gender transformative approach, where we used to train men in terms of those positive attitudes that they can achieve to deconstruct the patriarchal society. I don't know how about here in Canada, but that is something that we can work together and engage men in the community.
I appreciate that.
When you do that, you're able to reduce things like GBV, domestic violence, but also making men to be responsible men that are positive, men that want to see things differently.
Yeah.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
If I start talking about this, we'll spend another day. Thank you.
Yes, what's that?
And by the way, for the vision bearers, I think he should be one of the delegates next year when we have a conference. He seems to be having a lot to share. We have heard a little bit about Uganda. Can we hear something about Ghana, about the Nairobians, Kenya? We need something. We also have a little one here. As we talk about health and social issues, these are the future of tomorrow. And I'm happy that he is here to represent the children. He's going to have something to say. Do you have something to say? At least stand up, introduce yourself. Tell us what, I had a conversation with him earlier, and tell us what you aspire to be. I had a conversation already, so he has something to say, certainly, and he's such a good boy. Talk to us, man. You're going to go famous, man. They're going to see you everywhere.
Hello, my name is Benaya, and I'm 10 years old. And what I aspire to be when I grow up is a professional basketball player.
A professional basketball player. Some of the letters are not there, but you get the message. Are we together? So can we have someone from Ghana to say something and someone from Nairobi? Do we have the Nairobians here? Yes. Okay. Give it to us, and then I'm coming to you, lady.
So my question is, back in the UK, when you go for job hunts, when you are selected, you realize that they give the jobs mostly to the whites before even they consider the people of color. Is it the same that happens here as well? Because, we want to try put in some applications, but we don't know whether, we're going to face that same experience back in the UK here as well.
You have something to say. You're from Ghana. Can you just at least say hello to us? That's okay. It will do for us.
Okay, hello. I want to take it from yesterday. Preparing for this conference, I got the understanding that the global north here, healthcare system is the best in the world. But from the conversation yesterday, my perception changed a little. Because I got to understand that it is not all that well when you go to the hospitals and other health centers to receive care when you are in one. And then the issue has to do with the fact that most governments are not paying attention to healthcare as it used to be some 30 years back. Yeah. So that's the understanding I got. But how do we bridge that gap? Like what was created 30, 50 years ago, and then now, what are we doing to make sure that that gap is being closed? Because the future of mankind is more important than what we are doing today or yourself, what you need or what you should be satisfied with yourself. The future of mankind should be looked at. So taking it from that, if the global south, which is perceived, global north, which is perceived to be the best, is now handling health issues this way, what is happening to the global south? Which we know there are so many issues that are begging for help, especially in the health sector. So I will encourage members here to try as much as they can to be able to get people educated or informed or sensitized on these issues so that we can take it up at our various levels, at the municipal assembly level, where I work, so that we sensitize people to be able to advocate seriously to government to say that no, this is not what is supposed to happen. This is not what our forefathers did or built for us. You are destroying it. And for that matter, let us stand up and then work towards what they call building that thing or renovating it. That is the word that I will use. So that was yesterday that I learned. Yeah.
Thank you.
We don't want to be misunderstood. Canada is a lovely country. They have taken care of us. We do not pay for meals as newcomers. Are you agreeing with me? We do not pay rent as newcomers. They give us some money to enjoy from taxpayers' money. They have done us so much good. But like error is to human. There are a few things that may not seem okay. They also give us free health care. Yeah? So when we give a few of these comments, we are not saying that we are not receiving enough, and we are not saying that we are not happy where we are. We are happy, but there's always room for better. Hallelujah. I hope you're picking my point. So let us clap for the government of Canada, for they have done us so much good. Okay, so I will hear from you, and I don't know if you can give me your question in just 1 second. Can you do that? Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Rachel. Actually, it was an observation with the immigration presentation. So I heard a lot of healthcare, doctor, and we are talking about integration. Is there any social work, on the list? Or how can we ensure that it's a wellness, not just healthcare medically, but a wellness is up there next time?
A complete one, so I think we can have the responses just about now. And before a doctor gives medication to this patient, or before they even prescribe, they socialize with them, they build rapport, not so? Am I saying yes or a no? You are actually the one who directs the doctor on what medication you need, depending on what you have communicated to them. Clap me once if you get that point. Lovely.
Thank you so much, Sue. You can respond to the questions and then give final remarks as we head out for lunch soon.
Social worker, I haven't, you saw that list. It's 35 professions. I don't recall seeing it on there. I don't think that is a strictly considered a healthcare profession. It is still a high-skilled profession. So it is a job that could potentially qualify under the Foreign Skilled Worker Program. Because remember, you don't need a prior connection to Canada to qualify for that. So if your education is high enough and your language skills are solid, you likely could qualify with that one being your skill, with a high skilled profession. Otherwise, there could be places in Canada where there is demand for that and where there's a labor market impact assessment approved for an employer. If you find that, I wish you good luck with that pursuit, of course. If you do, then that would be the means that someone could come to Canada. It would start with the work permit and then qualify for Canadian Experience Class or a provincial nomination after that.
Thank you so much. Doctor, final remarks?
Yes. The gentleman who made a comment about the clock is ticking, about the SDGs, clearly, it's 2024, there's 6 years for 2030, and many of the targets won't be met. But of course, they make benchmark years so that we're working carefully to try to do as much as we can, but there'll be more goals after 2030. It's articulating the vision that's the most important thing, and then the fact that there is these goals, that people are working toward them, that's making a difference. Of course, the clock is ticking, but it's a journey. So just to say that. Also to the man from Ghana, just to say that I've been privileged to be collaborating with nursing leaders from Ghana, Kenya, Uganda, Rwanda, Angola, South Africa, Botswana, and what we're doing is helping those nurses to talk about how much they know and how strong they're working and what they are contributing to Africa with their knowledge and their capacities. And so we're also working on helping people to appreciate what people know in the Global South. It's very dynamic, and it's very important to know. Thank you.
I just wanted to add in terms of social workers, and ultimately our goal is to advocate, is to be socially aware, and to bring in that in terms of the work that we do with individuals. And I think that's important, that in the system, as social workers, if we're encouraging people to stand up for their clients, to search for programs on their behalf, what we're actually saying is that your voice matters. This isn't working, what can we look for as well? And so I think that way of working is what we're starting to do in the healthcare system more and more. I'm blessed to be able to work with current doctors in Canada at U of T, those who are doing fellowships, and I see that we're trying to change the Canadian system that we're into in terms of helping doctors to also be advocates for their patients, to look at them and see them differently. So I think our system, just in terms of responding to the gentleman before, our system needs help, but we have to continue to empower those when we're on the front line to ask good questions, to be advocates for them on their behalf. And I think that's important. Lastly, I just want to end with powerful words. So that's something that we bring into the therapy space in terms of what kind of words are we using? What is our self-talk? That is so important as we are all looking for work, we're in different situations. How are you speaking to yourself? What are you saying? This is how, this is an example of what we teach when we are empowering individuals. So to end, I want to do a call and response, okay? So I'm going to say something and I want you to respond, okay? I am powerful. And
I am powerful.
And what I do matters.
What I do matters.
One more time. I am powerful.
I am powerful.
And what I do matters.
And what I do matters.
Can you feel that? Or is it just me? No. That's the kind of stuff we have to, and that's hard to do if you're not feeling it. But the idea is that there's just something about energy that shifts, and we are able to share that with other people, and it goes on and on. We're all interconnected. That's what COVID taught us. We are all interconnected. We need each other. So that's something that we teach. That's something anyone could teach. But just remember, our words matter. And we are going through a lot of hardships, but we have to keep going by paying attention to what we're telling ourselves. Thank you so much.
That was a beautiful, very, very beautiful, positive mantra. We want to thank Godfrey, who is on Zoom. And then Johanna's question, just for 1 second, I think it will go to our immigration consultant. Hi, my question is with a background in psychology and the PRA, of course. If the College of Psychologists of my province declines my registration request, what are my options in terms of work? Just within a second, if you can respond to that.
Okay, well, that's a little out of my field of expertise. What are your other options? This is where you should speak to a recruitment specialist or a counselor who specializes in employment, I guess. That's a tough break. I'm sorry to hear that. There are, my understanding is for a lot of these jobs, there are other positions where say psychological skills or that level of training can be used in other fields. You would have to talk to a professional about what other jobs could be procured.
Thank you so
I'm
much.
sorry, I can't give any more information.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much. A standing ovation to all our.
Thank you. And a very big hand clap. It's time for our lunch. We want to thank our friends on YouTube and on Zoom. Thank you so much for logging in, and thank you so much to be on spot. Can you clap for our panel? They have done great. Thank you very much. Lovely. It is time for lunch. Yoo-hoo! Are we excited to have lunch? And when we finish lunch, we have last for best. The session that is going after lunch is going to be the epitome of this conference. So please don't have lunch and go. Come and have a dessert that you will enjoy right here, dessert of knowledge, okay? Are we going to come back after lunch? Lovely. So let's go and have lunch. Thank you. Leaves on the menu, please get most of those. Salads and leaves for our health. Get most of those so that you enjoy. In the meantime, DJ is going to give us music to take us through lunch. Thank you.